David Innerin from Pathways Church is going to lead us in the pledge and invocation. David?
Okay, I think good chance to sit down. There you go. All right, here we go. You ready? Everybody ready? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me pray. Father, today we're grateful for this great city that you have allowed us to be a part of. Grateful for the leaders that are here and then also even outside the building. And Lord, we're just grateful for God and for all those that are coming into our community. And as they do, I pray that you continue to give wisdom and guidance and direction to these leaders here as we even tonight sounds like look into the 10-year vision. And just pray that you would just continue to provide a direction for all of those on the city council and elsewhere. Lord, we're grateful for those that are coming because after all, we have an amazing community to come to. And so Lord, I pray that you continue to help us to make that so. I pray that the tax dollars are utilized to really go toward things that improve and continue to improve our great community. We pray for our schools, thankful for them, thankful for the leadership and for all those at USD 265. I pray for each and every school, for the administrators. Just thankful for our board. I pray a prayer of protection, continued protection over each and every kiddo that comes into our district, that comes into our schools, and pray a blessing over the teachers and all the administrators and all the paras and everybody who takes part in helping to help us raise great kids in our community, Lord. Thankful for the City of Goddard, thankful for the opportunity we have to administrate it. Pray that you'd help us to do right by it. We love you. We are grateful for what you've done for us. Most of all, we're grateful for Jesus, and it's in his name I pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, David. Item C, approve the agenda. Seek motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I make a motion.
Second.
Chris made the motion, Brent second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Before we have citizen comments, I want to make a mayor comment. Just wanted to say a couple things about the 10-year CIP. This is a beginning point and a starting point of planning for our future. Nobody would have guessed a year ago with 34 members in the senior center, or 35, that now we'd have over 500. There's a possibility in the future of a rec commission. There are things that are still things that we need to look at that aren't maybe initially in this first phase and document. The Water Ad Hoc Committee hasn't weighed in with their findings, so some of the information in the document really doesn't include any of their thoughts or comments. So I just want to be sure that everyone understands that we barely looked at this, the staff's work, and put a lot of time in it. We've got data in there that's high level estimates, prices and things change. We're working on right now projections in terms of trying to determine what kind of funding we'll have available as our budget grows over the next several years to be able to finance some of these things. So hopefully we can do some of this without raising property tax. Currently there's 67?
90 plus.
90 plus cities in the class 2, which is a population between 2,000 and 15,000. Our mill levy at 37.7 is number 10 in terms of being the lowest. I don't know how Chinook gets by with 7, but somehow they do. But it's listed out. I think that's a testament to the previous councils and the way the community's been run. The fact that we have a 1 cent sales tax has helped mitigate property tax. So just want to be sure everybody remembers this is a start of a conversation. We've got this on the agenda for the next 3 meetings, and by that time I think we'll have some recommendations from the Water Ad Hoc Committee, and we'll continue to work together to determine what's best in the best interest of the community. It's a juggling act, to be sure, because there's a lot of things that we have on the plate that are in the document just with that. So I just wanted to make those comments. I appreciate the staff and all the work that's gone into that document, and it's good to be able to make decisions based on hard data. We're not just guessing. We've spent a lot of money to get to this point, so, and we will continue to work forward in that way and try to do its best for Goddard. So, with that, I'll get with the council. Do you want to say anything right now? Okay, we'll open citizen comments then. 3 minutes, come up and speak. It's not debate time. If you want to visit with us, we're more than happy to do that afterwards or a scheduled time later on. But if you'd like to come up and address the council for 3 minutes, we are here to listen. Citizens' comments open.
Hello, my name is Amanda Treadwell, 410 Richards Road. I'm also past president of our Lions Club and current volunteer director of the Goddard Senior Center and chairperson of the Goddard Senior Citizens Advisory Board. So I was encouraged to hear that this is the starting point of the CIP plan. I'm interested to kind of hear what the whole process looks like as far as from this point to actually deciding on and voting on what the CIP program plan is. Thinking in the future, looking at our growth, I want to make sure that we're really being super intentional and thoughtful and doing our due diligence to make sure that whatever we decide to do is very intentional and strategic for our future and with the growth in mind. A lot of this growth has been recent, so I want to make sure that we're taking the time that we need to very plan and make sure we're not rushing into anything, especially when it's a plan like this and going to have the cost that it does. I would like to see a senior center on the 10-year CIP and possibly transportation services. I know the things that we're working on, but not having it on that plan is nerve-wracking for me because it tells me it's not necessarily an overall focus point, and I'd like to kind of see that. So I'm encouraged to see what this process looks like and how we can possibly have those discussions about those additional items that may be needed and whether or not there's going to be focus groups, any additional surveys that are done to the community, that type of thing. Based on what I read, it said there was community needs assessments, but I don't know when those happened or what those look like. I've talked to a few people and they didn't recall anything since 2023 that this says that this started. So I'm encouraged to kind of see what that process looks like and hope that together we can come up with a really great plan that's going to be beneficial for our community and help fill all the needs gaps that we have.
Thank you, Amanda. Next batter.
Russ Lowen, a business owner here in Goddard. Just for the record, everything Amanda says and then some. I want to be overly intentional, overly on purpose, overly communicative in the eyes of someone of your constituents. They communicated too much. We've never heard that. I don't hear that in my own business for my own self. But I want to challenge you, staff, everyone, when it comes to these types of plans that have such far-reaching implications. We only get to do it right the first time, one time. This time. So, I appreciate all of you being up here and serving and staff. I think we have a good overall team. We have some great, strong opportunities to knock it out of the park the first time. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Russ. Anyone else? No, we'll go ahead and close citizen comments. Move on to item E. This time I'd like to give council members a chance to clear any conflicts, communication that they might have had that in the last week or two that would influence their ability to consider today's agenda items impartially. No and no, so we're good with that. Appointments and recognitions. I guess we can do the consent agenda. Yeah, we need to back up that.
We're missing one there.
That's all right. We'll just pretend that's up there.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There was a slide prepared for this, but that's all right. It is with great enthusiasm that I share with you this evening and formally introduce Danny Muting, who is our new Community Engagement Director. Danny, why don't you join me up front? So Danny joins us from the city of Bel Air, and she has been with us almost a week and is a great asset to our team. As you'll recall, when we created this position last year, and we were going to go out to advertise it for, we brought this before council. So Danny will be working on community events such as the Main Street Markets, which the first one is coming up this upcoming weekend. Community events such as the Main Street Markets, Fall Festival, National Night Out, Christmas on Main Street, Neighbors United, which is also going to be held later this month, as well as working on engagement with the community. So, as has been shared, working on better communicating with our residents, with our local businesses. So looking at whether that be social media, our monthly newsletter, engagement through the creation of videos and new marketing that we can share with the public, with our citizens, and what the City of Goddard is all about, what we're doing and how we're improving the community, and being, of course, wise stewards of the taxpayer dollars. So we're, again, very happy to have Danny. You want to say anything to the council tonight?
I'm excited to be here. It's going to be a great opportunity. I appreciate all you guys allowing me to take on this role. It's going to be great. I'd say it's going to be a great first year.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Very good. We appreciate you being here. Look forward to great things. And thanks for keeping it under 10 minutes. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item G, consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve that.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Kristen makes a motion. Brent seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. That gets us down to H. Pro-code compliance. Our esteemed city attorney.
Good evening. We are back to revisit potential agreement with ProCode Compliance to take over some of the code enforcement in the city. Based on the conversations from many of you on the bench, we worked with the folks at ProCode to revise the proposed agreement that reduces the cost, reduces the number of man hours that they would put into it accordingly. So,
Turn it off and on. If that doesn't work, Sarah will run it for you.
there we go. Okay. So the city identified a need for a dedicated code compliance and enforcement services to ensure effective municipal administration. Currently, one of the only communities in the area that does not have a full-time staff member that's dedicated to code enforcement. Previously, that was a job that was tied together with permitting and animal control, and was handled by one individual, with planning and zoning handled by another. With the code enforcement officer retiring, the position was then consolidated with planning and zoning, and then animal control was handed off to Goddard Police. This became a duty of community development director, who later committed it to the city planner. Due to rapid growth of our city, community development director lacks the time to properly administer code enforcement, and so based on our investigation in the area, ProCode Compliance LLC is an entity, a private entity here locally that has been furnishing these services to a number of municipalities in the area, as opposed to hiring somebody in a full-time role, paying them wages, paying them benefits, etc. for what may not be a full-time position. So, scope of services, ProCode would provide compliance services, field surveys, they would issue citations, collaborate with city attorney, investigate any complaints, concerns. Structure, PCC will appoint a code compliance officer, so they would designate one of their representatives to serve in the official role as code enforcement officer, who would act as basically an independent contractor under the city and not as a city employee. So the proposed agreement, which is in the council agenda packet, it establishes ProCode's responsibilities, ensures compliance with the city's code enforcement needs. As far as reporting and coordination, ProCode is required to provide regular updates, coordinate with city departments to ensure all actions align with local ordinances and regulations. As far as financial, the proposal is for ProCode to be compensated at a rate of $2,700 per month. That would be inclusive of all general expenses. There may be additional expenses, postage for mailing citations, etc., to the extent that the postage exceeds $25 per month. Invoicing, they'll invoice on a monthly basis, not unusual. And then these expenses would be allocated to the general fund, code enforcement, other professional services, line 10, 580, 63, 65. Legal, it's approved as to form. The proposed term would begin on April 7th and would auto-renew annually on May 1st of each year. But either party can terminate the agreement on 90 days written notice. So that really is the duration of the commitment that we would be making. If we get into it, we decide this isn't for us, we don't like the way it's going, we can give 90 days notice, and all we're committed is to follow it for the next 90 days. But likewise, they can always terminate and if they don't think that it's working for them either. So, insurance indemnification, we insisted that they carry separate insurance. I mean, obviously the city has insurance that would likely cover any incident there, but to provide additional protection, we insisted they needed to have adequate insurance with the city named as an additional insured. We would cover the cost of that, and I can't remember, that was...
The insurance?
Yeah.
It was reduced by a pretty significant amount, but I have to go back and check.
I can't remember, I think it was less than $200 a month,
Yeah.
something like that. So our proposal, our recommendation is that the city council move to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement with ProCode Enforcement.
Brian, before we take comments from the dais, I just want to add a couple things. Thank you and Micah and others for your work on this to get this to this point. I think this is our second or third trip around the world here, and so we're working really hard to try to get this right, because code enforcement is at its very basic level of one of the primary services that a municipality needs to provide its citizens to protect its health and welfare. So this iteration that we bring to you, it's about $10,000 annually less than the first version, so I think that showed a good effort to try to really tighten the belt and get this maybe to a level that would be more palatable from an expense standpoint. And one of the things that maybe we didn't do the best job of the first couple go-arounds was just trying to clear up what I think is a misunderstanding as to what the time allocation is for code compliance. You've got dozens of pages worth of city code that discuss these things, because a lot of it is handed down to us by state statute. And when you have a simple code issue like debris in the yard or unfit structure, it may take a half dozen or more touch points before that issue is resolved. It could take a matter of months. So there's lots of time involved with that paperwork. Let's say you get to the point where a citation is actually issued, which doesn't happen all that often because these people that we would be hiring and when city staff were doing it, we work very hard with the property owner to try to mitigate it before it becomes a citation. But let's say a citation does come up, they have to go to court. A lot of times what we see is the judge will give them extensions, and then they ask the code compliance officer to go check this property again to see if they've made any progress. That can happen 2 or 3 times, and so you're talking about staff going out to this same property multiple times, writing another report, taking pictures. It takes a lot of time and effort administratively, and so while I can understand it might seem expensive, this is the most cost-efficient way to do code enforcement, which again is a bare bones principle service that we need to be providing our citizens. So that's all I had to add.
Questions, comments? So when this person is working, I mean, is their truck, I mean, is it gonna say PCC on it, or are they gonna be like?
Yeah, I believe they had indicated at a prior meeting that their vehicles are logoed.
Logoed and stuff.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So when somebody climbs in my backyard, looks in my fence, no, it's not my neighbor. Okay.
So if someone is entering a yard, you should assume that they tried multiple times,
Yeah.
multiple hours of the day to try to make contact with that person for a first time.
Yeah. And they probably had a conversation with me before they climbed in.
That is true. That is true as well.
It's only a 4.
At least I hope so.
If you go around the wood fence, you can get to the 4-foot chain link fence, it's a lot easier to cross, or just open the gate.
Just don't get caught.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple thoughts. When we first looked at this, I was definitely on the fence, but having some time to think about some things, I definitely see some positive opportunities here. First of all, we talked about in the last meeting when we discussed this, HOAs, and how most of the north side has HOAs. Most of those HOAs are doing what we are potentially doing now in outsourcing their code compliance as well. So by taking that on as the city, it gives those HOAs an opportunity to not have to do that anymore because code compliance will be coming through the city. Obviously, they could still do that if they chose to, but it's an opportunity to reduce those HOA fees for our citizens and not, they wouldn't have to pay as much potentially because those HOAs could not have to use that.
They're not gonna reuse those.
But it does give them the opportunity.
All day long, but they're not gonna reuse
Hey,
them.
I'm just listening to things we could be doing for our community. Secondly, big thing we've heard a lot in the last 2 years. People don't like duplexes, and a big reason why is because they're worried about what those duplexes are going to look like down the road. This holds duplex owners accountable as well to have code compliance throughout the entire community. A lot of those duplexes are not HOAs, but this essentially gives us an opportunity to hold those accountable as we build out those. And it kind of reduces the opportunity for duplex owners who don't live nearby or don't choose to maintain. They'll be forced to because we'll be watching it. So I'm definitely in favor of it after having some time to kind of think about it. It's an opportunity for our community to not have to worry about some of those things.
Anybody else?
I agree with Keaton on all those points.
I guess the thing I like about it too is that it's got a 90-day escape clause for both parties. And
Give it a shot.
if
If it doesn't work out, pull the plug.
find something else to do. You gonna live with it?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. My gosh, I just screamed a little bit and I lowered the price.
Very good. Well, I entertain a motion to approve this thing. So let's move.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Keith's made the motion to approve. I'll second that. I'll beat you to it today. I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries 4-0. Thank you. Item number 2. All right,
Let's continue talking about
Here, voice go.
Yeah, that's the topic of the night. Okay, so what we have done is we have tried to go through the entire code enforcement code, the nuisance or blight code, and try to streamline it. There were a lot of inefficiencies in there, a lot of redundancies in there. Enforcement stuff was addressed over and over and over in each of the articles. And so I went through there trying to eliminate some of that, creating one default enforcement section that everything would refer back to. And then the big change that we've made to the code was to send all enforcement hearings to municipal court. The way the code is currently structured, somebody receives a citation. It doesn't happen very often, but when they get that citation, they have the right to dispute it. And so currently, if somebody were to request a hearing after receiving a citation, that hearing comes before you all as the governing body. And that, you know, in the 12, 15 years that I've been working with the city of Goddard, I think that's only come to the bench a half a dozen times maybe. It doesn't happen very often, but it's messy. And so this idea is to redirect the vast majority of those hearings to municipal court with parties who are accustomed to conducting hearings, hearing evidence, considering legal standards, things of that nature. The only exception is in the case that a building or a structure needs to be demolished. There is a state statute that specifically requires those hearings to be heard by the governing body. And so in those cases, the hearing would still come before all of you. But in every other case, it would go to municipal court. That's probably not going to happen very often. It hasn't happened very often in the past, but I think it probably just makes more sense for those hearings to go to municipal court. So that's the biggest change that was made structurally to the code. I don't think there were very many other substantive changes as far as what's permissible, what's not permissible. The code does allow for designation of more than a single code enforcement officer. The reason being, there are certain things that pro-code compliance, they just don't have the expertise to do. Erosion control, rat infestations, there are going to be certain things that are still going to need to be handled in-house to the extent they come up. And so it allows the governing body to designate more than a single official as code enforcement officer. The other thing that it does is ordinarily code enforcement matters are handled administratively, meaning that citation is issued, either the homeowner abates the violation and all is good, or they refuse to abate the violation and the city has the ability to go in and abate it for them, and then the cost of doing that gets assessed against the property. So ultimately the property owner is going to bear that expense. The way that we restructured the code is now a matter could be treated as either an administrative matter or as a criminal violation, as a misdemeanor for violating city code. Now that is probably going to be reserved for the most egregious or repeat offenses, but that option is there now. And it mirrors what a lot of other communities in the area do with their code. See here. Yeah, covered a lot of that. Result in municipal court, demolition. The fund will be created for proceeds for insurance claims. Done that. So, financial, just publication cost associated with that, and rather than publishing the 20-page code or whatever it is. We're gonna do a summary in order to save some publication costs. So, I would answer any questions that you might have.
Appreciate all your hard work.
Well, thank you.
I think moving this into that venue is probably a good thing, time-wise, and also for consistency.
I think so, and I don't think, I mean, we haven't had a lot of matters rise to the level of needing a hearing, so I don't think it's gonna bog down the municipal court any more than it already is. I mean, if it becomes a problem, then we may have to revisit it, but I don't think it will. I think we had 1 year where maybe we had 3 matters that came to a hearing, and I don't think we've had any since then, and that was probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. So.
You have questions? I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance.
Second.
I've made the motion, Keaton seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Go ahead and
Make a
vote.
motion to approve the ordinance amending the city code related to chapter 8.
Keaton's made the motion.
I second.
Krista seconds. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Hall,
Yes.
Councilmember Fish,
Yes.
Mayor Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Curley,
Yes.
the ordinance 993.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
Time to talk about the 10-year CIP. So, I don't know if we want to wait for.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, so at your station there, you probably found a placemat. That is not a placemat, that is the 10-year CIP matrix. We have to print it big since there's so many things on it. If we want to be able to see it, we have to print it big. So, I want to say, we appreciate all of the comments that were heard tonight, and we appreciate the council's review of this. This is a very high-level draft. Nothing's being decided tonight. We're not picking and choosing things. We provided this to you all so you would have a chance to read it, look at it, talk to your constituents, kind of get a feel of how you want the CIP to work. This is staff's best guess at all of our needs and the costs associated with those and possible planning, funding opportunities. Nothing is set in stone, and everything can be changed. So for this presentation tonight, like I said, I just want to reiterate, this is high level. We're going to have opportunities to meet several more times to fine tune it, and we will have community engagement events to roll out the outcome of the CIP. So tonight we'll talk about the commitments and goals, the areas of focus we've chosen to address at this time, a high level of the projects. We won't go into each one of those, a summary, and then our next steps in future planning. So as we started to work through this, and we've created, the book, and you all received that book. In this book, we talk about responsible growth, fiscal stewardship, community development, and promoting an exceptional quality of life. And all of these different focus areas that we're going to go through provide that in a broad sense. So there's not one focus area, that's being focused on solely. There are 5 different areas. This CIP works with the city's long-term vision, fostering the economic vitality, the community resilience, and the outstanding quality of life for all. These are our areas of focus that we've chosen at this time. And again, we may have overlooked something, and if that's so, we sure want to know that. So we have administrative investments. These are items that are as they say, administrative. These are softwares that we need to upgrade. More consultations with professionals to continuously develop plans. Facilities. This is a big one. Facilities is a big one. We have a lot of needs with spaces, public works, police, City Hall, library, all of those are in there. It also incorporates some things that we're already doing, such as the salt stand storage project that we're doing. Parks and Rec, that's also a big one. It's got the North Park in there, and it also has some lower hanging fruit like the Rustic Creek Community Park. Pathways and Streets has 10 different projects. Well, I think it was 10, yes, 10 different projects in there that's been strategically placed through a lot of feedback from citizens. I would highly doubt there's anything not on that list that you guys constantly hear about. Sewer and stormwater projects, that will be funded through that new stormwater fund that we have set up. So we've kind of established an ongoing maintenance of different stormwater projects through that fund based on the revenue that's derived there. And then last but not least, and this is in alphabetical order, doesn't mean just because water's at the bottom, don't worry about water later. There's a lot of money in the water department there for a lot of different projects that need to happen and will be addressed. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all of these different projects and what they are, but there is a narrative in the book that you're provided that talks about each one of these projects, and the year we plan to do it, the story, the justification, the budget impact, the community impact. It talks about what we thought about as we did these projects, and it's all mapped out. Each year, I want you to know, this is a living document. We don't have to do everything in the year that it says. It will come to life, I feel, in the budget's planning session each year to determine if our goals on our CIP is going to align with our revenues and how we want to spend our money. So it will change. It isn't, we're going to adopt it and it will never change and this is what we've got to live by for 10 years. It's going to be a living document that we update and continuously monitor to make sure that that's what we want to do. I don't know if you guys have any specific questions of any of these projects that are listed, but I won't go into all those because Craig said I only have 10 minutes to talk. Move along. You're a busy night. I'm sorry.
You're doing great.
Okay. As you can see, we have things like I said, the 2024 project, 25. Those are all on here. Every project on here will continuously come to council. You will be voting on it. It won't be a surprise. The same procedures will happen with all expenditures. You can see here in Parks and Recreation, like I said, we have some low-hanging fruit that we need to address. Especially like the city pool, the operation and maintenance has kind of probably not been looked at, and so we're going to kind of bump that up every other year, putting some money into that fund. But we got a big one in that one as well. Again, those are all of the streets and pathways projects. Another thing to consider is that if there's grant funding available, we will be looking for grant funding. We already have identified some grant funding. These project costs that are listed here are gross. They don't include at this level, and it does on your matrix, any sort of grant funding or assistance that we plan to get with this. Projects for water. This has been shown to the ad hoc water committee several times, so they're very aware of this group of items, and they'll probably be giving us some more recommendations on how to organize this list of items, but this is kind of where we thought it today. And this is the overall summary in the years that we'll plan to do each of these projects and the totals that are relevant to those years. So in a 10-year period, as of today, we could look at be spending close to $126 million. That doesn't include inflation or anything that goes wacky in the economy, or those are costs today. And I guess I should have started with the background. That's what most people do when they get up here and start talking about stuff. But Craig came on and he did a good job at trying to get a lot of consultations done with professionals to get these costs put in place. So we've been waiting on those results of all of that consultations with the professionals and engineers to put dollar amounts into these buckets. And so he's done a great job of keeping that going and getting us going. Next steps, you guys will take this today and, like I said, look at it, read it, talk to people, kind of get some feedback from the citizens. And we're going to have a council workshop at our new meeting on April 22nd. And then we'll make some final adjustments to that document at that time, and then we will plan to adopt the resolution on May 5th, which will say we plan to do this at least for the time being, and if we have to come back at any point in time and change that resolution, Kevin has said that's not a problem, and we can do that at any time we need to adjust our CIP. After we've done this, we will do a community engagement event where we will roll this out with some PR and kind of show the citizens of exactly what we plan to do. Eventually, when this is all ready to go, we have plans of updating our website and keeping this live and running. Each of the projects would have a link and information and hopefully even a project bar graph that shows how far complete we are and the progress that we've made on these projects. And again, we will review this annually, if not even more than annually, as we work through our financials each month. So, with that being said, I don't know if you guys have any questions. I don't know if Craig has other things to say.
Sure.
Brooke did a fantastic job and super excited about this work product. Thank you. If you guys had a chance to kind of give it a cursory review, you could probably only imagine the hours of time and effort that she and others have put into this, and our senior staff, they had to be a big part of this too, meeting with all the consultants that we brought on and the council. You guys have made a significant investment in allowing us to hire the consultants to help us put this plan together. So I learned a lot this evening from our citizens that spoke earlier, and I think, and I'll take credit for aligning this calendar here, and based off some of the feedback we've received from our citizens tonight, I think maybe bullets 2 and 3 there we have in the wrong order. What I think we could do is have that community engagement event maybe after our noon council meeting. We'll shoot for 1st of May, that way we can have some time to market it to the broader community. And we can look to have our new community engagement director, Danny, work with Brooke and others on putting this in a kind of some life-size charts where we could actually have the citizens come in and rank these projects how they see it. That input is going to be really valuable in a lot of the areas. Some of the other areas, we'll have to consider what level of information would have been made available to them to make an informed decision on ranking those. Not every citizen has had the opportunity to tour the Public Works building that was built in 1959, or go look at the police station that is packed to the brim anytime we're doing a meeting amongst the police department. So those ones will be a little bit more difficult for them to kind of prioritize for us. So there's always some context involved in that, but I think we really need to have them a part of this original conversation and do that community engagement event, and then come back and provide that data to the council along with staff's recommendation. Obviously the council will have had a chance to provide input by then, and then we can adopt that resolution. Keep in mind, as Brooke mentioned, this is a living, breathing document. Priorities are going to change. New councils are going to come in. This is a 10-year plan. You guys are on 4-year terms. And so while I hope to see the majority of you here forever because I love working for you, others could come in and they may see other things that are important to them. And so it's important to just know that what the final version of this looks like sometime in May could look a lot different a few years from now based on how things change. The other comment I wanted to make is you see $125 million worth of projects on there. It's sticker shock, sure. And we're going to have an opportunity as we get into the budget year prior to that project when it's supposed to be built to really hone in, get the scalpel out, and try to tighten that down to what it needs to be. While true, as Brooke mentioned, those are today's costs. To build that same police station, that same public works building 5 years ago was probably less than half of what it costs today. If you look at the trend line over the last 100 years, prices always go up. There's a few good years when you get the right administration in federally and you see some nice dips in prices, but when you really zoom out, things are not getting cheaper. So we need to keep that in mind too. Whatever we don't build today is going to cost a lot more tomorrow. So I'm excited on the direction of this. The city has not had a formal capital improvement program like this that had council input, consultant expert input, the citizens' involvement. We haven't had anything like that here to my knowledge, and so having this and being able to track it live as these projects are completed, I think it's going to be a huge value to our citizens so they can see how their money is being spent here. Mayor said it before, Goddard deserves to have nice things. We're pretty far behind in a lot of ways, and I think this capital improvement program shows that. So I'm excited for the feedback we're going to get from our citizens. I think it's going to be really important that we get that included, and we're going to keep working at it. I don't know if you mentioned this, but any of the items in there that are adopted via resolution, which again can be modified at any time, but those items are exempt from our debt limit. So it's not going to harm our credit rating. Bond buyers are going to be interested in purchasing the bonds that will finance these projects. So it's a nice tool that Kansas statute allows for us too. So that doesn't mean we don't have to have a source of revenue to service the debt. So thank you, Brooke. Really impressive what you put together. We will tweak this next steps in future planning, but do plan to be at the council workshop April 22nd at noon. And just know that we'll have a community engagement event, kind of a workshop for the community, probably that first week in May, and we may back up the timeline a few weeks. There's really no rush. We kind of already know what 2025, and we have a pretty good idea of what 2026 looks like from a capital project standpoint, so it's not like we're going to get ourselves behind. We have the time to put a little more effort and rearrange the calendar to get some more citizen input and continue refining it, because I'd be lying if I said I've read every page word for word, so I'm still working through it myself. Thank you.
The other comment I'll make is that the other side of the ledger is working on it, and Brooke's working on this too, is the projections of our growth and cash flow. So we can look out in the next 4 or 5 years and see what kind of cash we would have available for debt service for bonds. I don't know if there's a great appetite for increasing the mill levy. I think everybody likes that we're, below 40 mills, and I don't think we really like to see that jump up there any further, stay where we are on that. But that also, the thing that came up the other way to pay for things is the possibility of tying some of these projects to a 1-cent sales tax, which would sunset upon completion of whatever the projects are. So we have the opportunity to not only, here's a list of projects, but we can take a look at what type of funding and what kind of commitment the community wants to make to fund those projects. So we've got to look at both sides of the ledger, and the debits have to equal credits, the old accountants tell me. So also from being a teller in banking, you just need to balance in a penny and stuff. So there's a limitation of that, so we need to take that into consideration as well. And we're working on that piece, and by the time we get down here at the end of the month, hopefully have some numbers to kind of reflect that as well. So appreciate all the hard work. Any other comments on the batch?
There's a test next week, just to make sure everyone saw the fine details in there.
Right. I just want to know where the cheat sheet is so I can pass. Very good. Okay, we'll move along here on the agenda then. Get my computer out of here.
You gotta zoom back.
We'll see that here.
Mayor and City Council, this is I3. This is the Jesse Schellenberg presentation from Villas at PRC. Just quick background, MKC Engineering had submitted an application to rezone around 45 plus acres on the northeast corner of 103rd and Maple from R1 single family residential, R4 high density residential. The case was presented on March 10th of 2025 before the Planning Commission. After some deliberation, it was voted about a 3-3 on a split vote, which constitutes a no vote. And it went before the City Council on March 17, 2025. After some deliberation, it was voted no on a 3-1 vote, denying rezoning request for case number zone 25-1. On March 18, 2025, the developer submitted another application for rezoning request to rezone the property to R2 instead of R4. The developer also met with members of the Planning Commission and the City Council on Wednesday, April 2nd at the Crestwood Development in Bel Air to showcase his plans for the area of Goddard. The developer is present here today and would like to ask the City Council if they have any questions or if they want to ask him any questions, and so he can present his case further. So at this point, Mr. Schellenberg, if you want to come up. There on the right, there on the left, and the green button is for your name.
Don't hit the red button, that sits up the alarm.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, thank you guys again for somebody that come out and checked out our project that we have there in Bel Air. There's the villas at Prestwick that we had just completed second quarter of last year. And so I thought it would be good. I know there were some questions or concerns from the last one, so there was just a couple items just wanted to kind of touch on and see what again, questions or concerns that there may be. One thing, just kind of wanted to go over who we are, what our product is, and how we see ourselves kind of filling the gap with our product. You guys are probably aware, you know, we've been in the development business for over almost 40 years now. We came into Goddard and did Arbor Creek was our first single family development. That was kind of our first relationship, kind of working with you guys. I think we hit the expectations and we typically prefer to go above expectations, and we've been real happy with how that has turned out. And so I wanted to go a little bit, and again, some of you guys have seen our product and what it's all about, and so I think there was maybe some information that was maybe lacking at the last one, and so I brought some good pictures here. And I think it kind of all starts around our clubhouse. Out at our villas, we create more of a lifestyle that we do with what we offer. Our product is independent living. It's age restricted. Sorry, allergies have been rough. And so we don't allow anybody under 55 out there. We're doing a little bit of a different product out here where we will be selling some of the doors. And so that is just a little bit of a different process part of that. But included in our clubhouse, this is all what our residents can use. We have, and I'll get to a list of some of the different items that we have, but we've got a pool, we've got a exercise room at the next project we'll be doing. There will be a pickleball court, and so this is just a product that the clubhouse that a lot of people use. It gets utilized, rented out a lot. So we have some pictures here, just some of the different events. We do have a celebrity pool boy there in the middle. And so some of this, again, they do weekly aerobics classes in the pool. The workout room gets used quite a bit. It's used for private events, birthday parties, potluck, monthly potluck, dinners, bingo. They'll use it for grilling parties. They'll do, I mean, it's used at least three or four times a week. And so again, it's within our community. This is how we kind of promote it, and it sets us apart from some of our, I wouldn't say competition, but continuum care retirement communities. And so with that, I'll go to the one of our floor plans just to kind of give an idea. Majority of our stuff is slab on grade. It's not 100% ADA. You know, we have no stairs. you know, a little wider doors, 3-0 doors, easier access to showers. And again, the big thing that we try to promote is it's not maintenance free, but it is very low maintenance. We take care of all exterior maintenance, majority of interior maintenance, so appliances are included. We take care of our kind of mottos, anything that requires getting on a ladder, we take care of. So we'll take care of light bulbs, we take care of smoke detectors, appliances break, we take care of those. So a lot of our residents do enjoy that. If they leave town for a month, there's not a lot that they have to take care of. And so in our product, again, I'll refer back to Arbor Creek. We have another product in Bel Air that we just finished in Bays. And we're 100% majority of the time with the wait list. We have, you know, some little periods on transitioning, but we stay full with a wait list out there. And so this is kind of when it comes into kind of filling the need on some of this out there and what we offer. There's not a lot of people that offer that, and include, like, again, 2-car garage. We have, we call it secured storage. It's a fully concrete room, and with a steel door, so if it's bad weather, that people can go in there for safety. We do, you know, we're not one just to get as much cash flow and everything from these products. We do exterior painting every about 8 years or so, and we do twice a year where we do bed maintenance, where we replace dead trees, dead shrubs, pull up the beds, so we keep the product looking good. And majority of the time, if we can, we try to do berms around, so it keeps things kind of secluded, more private. You can't see in the back of people's yards. It's just a good, clean up, you know, kept up property. And I just got and I talked about some of these things, but just some of our amenities that is included, and kind of what's included within the villa itself. And so again, kind of what, and this is all included in the rent. They can use the clubhouse. There's no additional cost, unless they tear the place up, which they do have some rowdy parties every once in a while. But we have great residents. They take care of the place, keep things very neat. I know there's a good police department here, but boy, they police the property. They may have you beat on that one, but so that there's just a lot of respect aspect on that. It's the greatest generation, and that's our kind of clientele with that. So again, and feel free to stop me if you got questions. I know one of the questions kind of was, is like, is there a need for this, or some of that? And so I have just some little information. I also have maybe here to chime in that just gives a little bit of this clientele. She'll share some of her stuff that she knows about Goddard and census and some of that information.
So Jesse called me and just asked about from the senior center perspective, because I shared that we did some surveys at the end of 2024. Housing was a part of that survey. I'm a bit advocate for senior housing as well, with working with the seniors. So I just shared some of the survey results and just some of the census data. So the most recent census data is we have 1,073 seniors in the Goddard city limits, that is 55 or older. If you look in the Goddard School District, which is outside but still part of our community, within the next 5 years, we're going to have 9,700 seniors. So when we're looking at housing options for our seniors, in a lot of those survey results, one question specifically said, what are the most important factors when considering housing needs? So affordability was number 1, safety and security was number 2, proximity to friends and family was number 3, and then social opportunities and proximity of public services was right after that. So what I really like about this particular housing project is they have those social experiences built into the housing, and it's very specific to the 55+ community. And that's something we do not have currently in Goddard. So part of that survey was also looking for those that were wanting to age in place and those that were wanting to downsize. There is a significant number of our residents that need to downsize because their homes are bigger in Goddard. But I asked the question is, do you feel that your current living situation meets your needs now and in the future? And a lot of the answers was no, that they wanted to move to a senior community. So I don't think I don't want this to be looked at as just duplexes, because this is a particular senior community. This is actually driven towards a specific clientele, like he said, which I feel that we need. Another question was, are there any specific concerns you have about housing options for seniors currently? And overwhelmingly, it was the lack of housing options in Goddard. So in looking at what we currently have, Goddard Senior Homes, Goddard Senior Apartments, that is going to be $1,000 and under price point because they're income based. If you look at Dove Estates, Medical Lodges, and Silver Lining Senior Living that we have here in Goddard, you're looking at $7,000 and up a month. We don't have anything in between. So I'm a big advocate for those in-betweens, and this gets us one step closer to that. Senior apartments is another option as well, but until something like that comes along, this fills that gap and needs, and I think it's definitely based upon actual survey results from our seniors and knowing what we currently have right now, this fills that gap, and I think it's a good project to support. Any questions about that?
And again, I just kind of put this together. That just kind of shows here in Goddard what there is, the offer, when we're kind of referring to the gap, just on the different price points that there are, and kind of what I found on some of the starting rates, and kind of where we fall, and again, filling that gap in that price point. A lot of these, and again, it's kind of hard to compare our product versus others because ours is strictly independent, and so we don't offer, even though in-home health care is, they can pick that and have that. That's not something we offer. And so when you get to some of these other places, it is just expensive. And some people just, they want to be around a community that's, similar age, similar, times in their life where they can relate. That's a key component. So there's just not a lot, if you go to an apartment or that any ages can be there, it's just a different feel. And so this kind of gives you around that price point that we're looking at starting at, and again, we're a little ways away, but that's kind of about where we're at. And so if you compare to some of these 5,000 and some of that, and some of these are income based, this just helps with, it helps with that price point with being a very good product. And so that's when I refer to, filling the gap. I think that's what can bring. I know there was some, if this isn't offered, then you've got to drive 15 minutes, outside of Goddard, and so then you're losing residents to grow the community here. And a big part of this is, I know that we have, a bunch of new, I think it was the 5-year or 10-year, 5,900 new homes planned over the next decade, 22 new developments, and a big aspect of why people will move depends obviously on the location, but if they've got family, grandkids, and that, you have a lot more new homes being built, and so people want to move closer and still stay in that kind of retirement community feel. And so that's a big attribute that I think could keep people here in Goddard without people just going to Wichita or outside, keeping it there. So again, that's what kind of the 3 big points I wanted to just point out with our clubhouse, and again, our lifestyle, what we create, and the planning party committee, and just the overall vibe is just, it's a different product that totally sets us apart. And again, I'm glad you guys got to go out there and see it. Sometimes the pictures don't do much justice. And you can see kind of the detail, what we look at, and the rounded countertops, and just everything that we offered is included with that. I think that kind of covers everything. And I think I did say, we'll have some areas in here that will sell, that people can buy. units as well. And that would be managed by the property management company, which would be, like an HOA. So there'd be covenants, restrictions, and how that would all work, that would look, and just like everything else, end up kept the same. So no concern that. And again, we're locally owned and operated. We do prefer to, develop and hold. And so we're not out of state. We're, 20 minutes away. That makes a big difference. I've seen that side effect on different communities when it's not local, because they do just bleed the cash flow as much as possible. Any questions?
We get up here? I would just like to make a comment. I just want you to know that I think, as a council member, I appreciate the investment that your family's made within the community. Appreciate your patience with us. We have deliberated and talked about duplexes, and I think we're just trying to ensure that there's quality products and the things that are being built in the community, which is what you're doing, and that so that we're just trying to do the right things and do it the right way. So I hope you don't take any personal offense to it, because your Creek development, it was a tremendous development. Everything you've done in the community at this point has been single-family residences, and we really appreciate that support. And I think those are the types of, the general feedback is, we maybe have enough duplexes, and there's changes in the market. You guys are in business not to build things and have them sit vacant. Developers, bankers, everybody involved in this whole process is trying to figure out the markets as the markets change, but we do appreciate the relationship that we have with you. I guess you get to run this through the planning commission here next week, and hopefully we'll see this one way or the other, the 22nd or the 29th, whenever it gets brought back. But appreciate the time you took to show us the product, and just my personal thoughts. The place is very nice. If I could ever convince my wife to sell our house, we'll probably move. But she's in love with that 150-year-old tree in the front yard. So if I can figure out a way to move that tree, maybe we'd move. But anyway, in all seriousness, we do appreciate your commitment to our community, and thank you for that.
I'd also like to say that I'm glad that you came to clarify a few things, because initially it seemed a little muddy in terms of who could live there, if it really was 55 and plus. And so I appreciate that you have made clarification on that. Also, going and viewing the product that you have put together in Bel Air, and also that evening I drove to your Maze product that's 20 years old, and we were up and down every street, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see that it was all still very intact, pristine. So that's very comforting. I'm not against growth in Goddard. I am against really poor quality. And I do appreciate that what you have presented to us is good quality, and so I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Any comments?
Nope.
All right, we'll move on. Thank you for your time this evening.
Yes, thank you.
Just real quick, there is no binding action. This was just received the file. And a point of legal clarification, the question has come up before, and Ryan Peck can correct me if I'm wrong, but how can somebody, it's come up before, like how can you have a 55 and over exclusive? Isn't that a violation of the Fair Housing Act of 1968? There's a provision of the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which is the HOPA Act of 1993, which is the Housing for Older Persons Act, which allows you to actually have an exclusive development if 80% of the units are for people in the senior age range. And if the amenities and activities are dedicated for those seniors, which is the HOPA Act, Housing for Older Persons Act, 1993. So that's why you're allowed to do that. So in case that comes up. Thank you.
Okay, debt risk analysis. Who's doing first? Brett?
That would be me.
You're up.
Good evening, Mayor Lee and ladies and gentlemen of the council.
Brett Sjogren with Stiefel Public Finance. I'm sure you're aware we've assisted the city many times with, as financial advisor or underwriter on many bonds and temporary note issues to finance public purpose projects. Your administration has requested that I prepare this analysis for you. This is mostly, well, there's a lot of background, but this is mostly focused on bond ratings. I am not the rating agency. I'm a financial advisor and underwriter, and I work for the city, but I'm not the rating agency. I can't make those decisions or forecast how they perceive or adjust your ratings. As an overview, let me see if this works here. That's me, or was me? That's me. Goddard, as an overview, Goddard is a growing city and as a result been a frequent issuer of temporary notes and bonds. Bonds are tools that municipalities use to borrow money for large projects to be paid back over time. Public purpose type projects can typically be sold tax exempt, which provide tax-free income to investors and in return give you a lower borrowing cost for municipalities and their taxpayers. Since 2006, the city has issued approximately 40 general obligation or revenue bonds or temporary note issues, including new money bonds, revenue bond issues or note issues, or star bonds. S&P Global has rated the city's bonds and temporary notes since 2019. They're a rating agency that analyzes and provides credit rating to the city and the obligation similar to an individual's credit score. The credit rating is their opinion on your credit worthiness or the credit worthiness of the municipality. The higher the score, the lower the interest rate we get on our borrowings. Several factors contribute to an issuer's credit rating. For S&P's purposes, that's the economy, financial performance, reserves and liquidity, management, and debts and liabilities. These categories are analyzed and scored on their own as an individual credit profile, and then they analyze the individual security, including the amortization rate, the security that's pledged, etc. They also take into account what they call institutional framework assessment on Kansas local governments as an anchor. These are the factors in the individual credit profile. As you can see, each category is weighted about 20% each of the analysis. S&P looks at the city's information and also compares them with other similar issuers throughout the country. But these are the criteria that they look at when they evaluate a rating or a municipality for a rating. And this is a scorecard based on those categories. The table to the left is right out of your most recent bond rating report or temporary note rating report for the notes that we're selling here in a couple weeks. So that is the most current information we have, and then to the right is the scorecard. As you can see, based on the institutional framework, the score is 2. For Goddard's individual credit profile, the average is 2.47. Basically those 5 areas averaged, and that's the 2.47. Institutional framework is kind of a more broad, based on local governments in Kansas and statutes and things like that. So the two is on the left-hand side, and then the columns are on the rows, and then the ICP, the individual credit profile, goes across the top there. As you can see, if you put them in the middle there, the credit score on the scorecard is AA-.
Brett, the lower the better. Right?
The lower the better, yeah, on the numbers.
I just want to make sure that council understands that. So a
Yes,
2
that's
compared to the average of 2.47 is good.
Yes, that's correct. The lower the number, the better on the scorecard. Okay, using this scorecard, this puts Goddard in the AA- category. As you can see, the city scores very well in nearly all of the other categories, the economy, financial performance,
reserves and liquidity and management all score between 1 and 2.35. Debt and liabilities category is a 5, which means the debt is elevated, but really the other factors are so positive that really outweigh that higher score in the debts and liabilities section. Okay, after analysis, the ratings analyst presents the information on the scorecard to the credit committee at S&P, and the committee votes to assign a credit rating to the obligations. Sometimes they look at other factors and make recommendations that don't line up with the scorecard. In your case, it lined up pretty well. Credit ratings range from AAA, that's at the very top, and these are the 3 most common rating agencies. The scores are pretty much the same. Moody's does it a little different, but all the scores are basically lined up. The highest is AAA, down to C, which is extremely speculative. Most Kansas issuers are in the A category, although some large municipalities are actually rated AAA. There's some Johnson County cities and school districts that are AAA. Sedgwick County is AAA. And then but most are in the A category. There are some that are struggling that are actually in the BBB category. I'm not sure there's any that are lower than BBB in Kansas. As the scorecard indicates, Goddard's S&P rating is AA- on bonds and SP1+ on temporary notes. So they indicate that the city's bonds and notes are considered high grade and considered investment grade. Okay, since 2019, as I said, that's when they initially rated the city. The city's done lots of borrowings before, but they were so small that a rating didn't make sense. We issued those bonds and notes non-rated. Once the projects got larger, the bond issues got larger, the rating made sense to bring down the interest rate and the rating would pay for itself. So I'm comparing 2019 from when they originally rated the city, and the city's always been rated AA- and SP1+. So comparing the 2019 to 2024. As you can see, fair market value has grown from 339 million and change to 607,645,121. That's a 79% increase in those 5 years. Fair market value to capita has grown from 71,789 to 106,455. Equalized assessed valuation has grown from just under 50 million up to 85,269,000, and that's 70% growth in those 5 years. Yes.
Could you explain what those are, FMV and then EAV?
Sure. FMV is fair market value. That is the value of, if the appraiser says your home's worth 300,000, that 300,000 is included in there. And all of the valuation in the city, that's the actual fair market value according to the appraiser. Equalized assessed valuation, or EAV, that is the tax base valuation. Homes, residential property assessed at 11.5% of its fair market value. So $100,000 fair market value home has an assessed value of $11,500. And commercial properties assessed at 25% of its fair market value. Ag land is a little different. It's 30% of its use or productivity value. I think vacant lots are 12%, but that's the difference between those two. That's the tax base. That's what the taxes are calculated based on mills. 1 mill is $1 of tax on each $1,000 of assessed valuation. Okay, so that's how property taxes are calculated, based on $1 per thousand of the EAV. So the tax base growth has grown, that's that EAV, about 50 million up to 85 million, 269. Does that help?
Yes, and just to put it one other way, because everyone learns these things differently, and in math, as we learned in grade school, you can use a different formula to reach the same end, but that EAV, as Brett explained, so the value of 1 mill for the city of Goddard, which we levy 37 mills, the value of 1 mill would be $85,269.21.
Correct. Absolutely, thank you. And as I said, that's grown 75% in those last 5 years. Previous growth from 2014 to 2019 was only 19%. So the growth from the next 5 years has jumped up to 70%. Okay. Debt has also grown, as I'm sure you're aware. In 2019, it was about $21,676,000 and has grown to $60,505,000. The city has invested in infrastructure to accommodate growth. Nearly half of that is residential developments paid for by special assessments. So majority of that, over 50% of that, comes from special assessments. The population has grown from 4,724 to 5,708. That's about 21.5% over that 5-year period. And based on that and the debt per capita has also grown from about 4,588 up to 10,617. Debt to fair market value also grew 6.4% up to 11.1%. These are the type of things, I'm going over these because these are the type of things the rating agency looks at. One thing the rating agency really likes are reserves, and you've done a great job with reserves. General fund reserves, just in the general fund, was $1.4 million, which is about 40% of general fund expenses, and it's grown up to $2.9 million, which is about 60% of general fund expenses. And given those changes, like I said, debt is more elevated, but your tax base has grown, your population's grown, a lot of metrics have grown and done better. Given those changes, the city just reaffirmed the AA- rating on outstanding bonds and rated your outstanding temporary notes as well as the new note that sells in a couple weeks as the SP1 Plus. Citing elevated debt, but that debt should not outpace growth. That was their comments.
I think it's really important to underscore that, and I'm sorry to keep interjecting on Brett's behalf, but I want to make sure that you guys are digesting, because these are really high-level concepts here. It's really peculiar to some to see that $60 million figure. I had a state legislator that was giving me a little bit of a lecture about our community's debt, and he was from a city of about 300 people that didn't have a lot of debt, and they didn't have any really special assessment financing. The city I came from in Sterling, we had no special assessment financing for no new development. So $60 million for special assessment financing, which you guys understand, as long as there's people that own these homes and they're paying those specials, which they do, you know, there's no real concern there. So I just want to make sure I underscore that, and I don't want anyone to leave with the interpretation that we have a high debt, because that's not the case. When you compare us to other communities that aren't growing, it can look like that without the proper context. Does everyone understand that? Okay, thank you.
Many of these metrics are positive, reflecting valuation growth, reserve increases, value per capita increases. As I mentioned, debt ratio has increased, but that's somewhat lagged a few years because that's infrastructure for housing developments that are under construction. Probably 3 to 5 years, those houses are going to be built, they're going to go on the tax rolls, and people are going to start paying taxes on those houses. And you're going to get more population to move into the city and help with that. So I feel like the debt ratio has gone up, but there's a reason for that, and there's a plan to increase revenues to keep up with that growth. The rating agency estimates that the tax base will keep up with debt issuances. Given the changes from 2019 to today, they still maintain that same rating. And also in their report, this reflects the expectation of Goddard's conservative budgeting practices and continued economic expansion will support robust cash basis reserves, providing financial flexibility for this growing city. Basically, they note that although additional debt issuances is expected to meet growth needs, it's not expected to outpace expansion. And I've talked to them multiple times. I've talked to the analysts that we've worked with on your city's credit, and I mean, they just know you're growing. You need to issue additional debt to keep up with tax base expansion, keep up with infrastructure, and they're aware of that, and they don't seem concerned about that. So, I did ask, possible concerns, what would make them concerned. S&P noted that the following could cause concerns with the rating committee. Increase in debt service as to total revenues, increasing the debt service without the revenues coming or going up. Significant worsening of the debt to market value ratio, and increase in net direct capita metrics resulting in pressure on the operating budget and reduction in reserve levels. Additionally, the rating agency noted that they could change the rating if metrics worsen with additional debt service, or if, and it's not your fault, but if other metrics get better in other cities comparable to Concord. If you're issuing debt and your other comparables are not issuing debt, or they're paying off debt, not issuing new debt, then you look worse compared to the other cities. That could cause a downgrade too. They compare you to other cities across the nation. So, and that happens every once in a while. They kind of redo analysis, and it can happen, but they wanted to make sure that they have an out if they do change something that, other things out of your control could also cause a rating change.
So if,
yes.
go back on the other slide. If we, in the next 4 or 5 years, do some of these projects we're talking about doing, as long as we do it in concert with the increased revenue, where we get it from,
Yes.
as long as those ratios stay in play, then our bond rating's not gonna change. So the whole thing is the leverage, we need to maintain the same leverage that we have in relationship to our income and the expense on.
Yeah, they would prefer that. I mean,
But if we don't, say that would trigger a decrease in our rating.
It could. It could.
And then that would then impact the interest rate that we're charged.
What
all those things.
Mayor, you bring up a really sharp and important point, and it goes back to why we promote development in the city. As our assessed valuation grows, so too does our debt ceiling, and it assists with improving that ratio that you just mentioned. If we are not authorizing responsible development to allow that assessed valuation to grow, that ratio becomes skewed whenever we are borrowing money to pay for infrastructure projects, whether it's new infrastructure projects like the North Park, or if it's replacing water main and doing water main loopings like we're talking about in the water utility, taking care of what you have. So there's some reasons further than an inch below the surface as to why we want to promote development, and a lot of it has to do with some of these things that Brett's talking about, and to your point that you just made.
And I guess what I'm trying to point out is that there's a limit to how much debt we can take on in relationship to that growth.
Yes.
And so as we're going forward and doing all this analysis of what we want to do, we need to consider that side of the ledger and what commitments we make in terms of funding these things.
And that limit continues to stretch the more you grow, because your assessed valuation is going up.
a limit is technically 30% of assessed valuation. And as I said, as more houses and/or businesses go online on the tax rolls, that 30% starts to grow.
Now, we're looking at passing a 10-year CIP, which sits outside that limit.
Right.
So we could potentially over-leverage the city, which would then create an issue.
That's where the credit rating agency comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's the whole point of the discussion, to be aware of those things.
Absolutely.
And as I said in a few slides ago, you know, the debts and liabilities, 20% of the rating is elevated. It's technically 5 out of 6.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those, well, that's kind of my point. I mean, the other 5 or the other 4 metrics are so positive that they really weight it a lot. And, you know, if you were to issue additional debt and then your tax base stops growing, or your population flattens out, or, you know, something like that, yeah, they'd start saying, you know, you've over-leveraged yourself, and that would likely trigger a downgrade. But as long as Mayor, you're right, as long as you're growing pretty much in proportionately to your, your debt, then there shouldn't be a problem, I would think. So, just some final thoughts to kind of wrap things up. The city typically issues GO bonds. These are full faith and credit obligations of the city payable from unlimited taxes collected within the city limits. They're very secure from a credit rating agency perspective. I say that because, some people say, well, if you over leveraged yourself, then who's going to buy the bonds? These are very secure bonds. These are pretty much right below, government bonds, U.S. government bonds. The city is obligated legally to levy unlimited tax to make the payments to the bondholders. So these debt issuances that you're entering into are very secure. As the city continues to grow, additional debt issuances is expected to keep up with growth. Debt is considered highly elevated. We talked about that. Goddard's population has grown by approximately 256% in the last 40 years. We looked at the last censuses from 1980 to 2020. Of second-class cities, that's the fourth most growth by percentage. Goddard's assessed valuation has grown by 70% in those last 5 years. Other growing suburban cities with similar metrics maintain the same rating Goddard does. Most of the debt the city's entered into is repaid from special assessments, which does not typically put pressure on the city's budget. That was one thing that the credit rating agency, mentioned, was that if it puts strain on the budget, then it could be a problem, but most of it would not put pressure on the budget as long as people pay their taxes. Another thing that wasn't mentioned was once the STAR bonds are paid off, those pledged sales tax revenues return to the city. That's huge, that's a major positive to the city's revenues. And I put in bold, cash reserves, they're typically 20% of, the metric, but that's what we hear about a lot on all of our rated deals. Cash reserves are one of the most important metrics for the rating agency, and the city has been successful in maintaining adequate reserves reflected in the positive rating. I see a lot in other rating reports that anything over 35% is really good for the rating agency. So the fact that you're in the 50-60% range is excellent. They really like that. Just some, I guess, points. I just did some research. This is 2019 through 2023. 2023 was the last complete report I could find on second-class cities. But the city of Goddard, top 20 cities, these are second-class cities. 4-year assessed valuation growth, city of Goddard is right there. It's 6th place. If we were to go to 2024, you'd be up in 2nd place. And I don't know where the other rankings would go, but if I could find a full report of 2024, Goddard would be up in the 70% range. Population growth, like I said, in the last 4 censuses, you're right there in 4th place, in the 256% range. And the mayor talked about this earlier. This is really hard to see, but this is a list of all of the second-class cities in Kansas. Goddard is highlighted right here. At least in 2023, they were the 11th lowest mill levy in the state, and the mayor said that you're now 10th. So that's great news. But these are all second-class cities. You've got one of the lowest total city mill levies in the state. So
it's 2024 tax levy for 2025. So
great, perfect. And then this is in your packet. This is just an estimate based on the temporary note issuances you have outstanding right now. Once they convert to permanent financing, this is what the debt service would look like. The bottom part, the gray, is your current bonds, and then the different colors would be the 3 different issuances for converting your temporary notes to general obligation bonds. Most of that is special assessment debt service. So, but we ran the report, so I wanted to show you. This is in there. There's more detailed information in your agenda packet about every single bond issue you have, every single temporary note issue in Star Bond. And this is a disclosure the lawyers told me I had to put in there. I would be happy to answer any questions. I apologize, that was so long. I know there's a basketball game on tonight, I think. But I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know we asked questions as we went through, so if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer. Or I didn't even give Kevin a chance
Mayor,
to talk. You want to talk?
I want to have Kevin, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, and Mayor doesn't mind it.
Go ahead.
There's an important conversation that we've had amongst the council with some staff, just kind of about the incremental nature of some of the residential development we have, how these things are broken out in phases, how the letters of credit work with the developers. Could you maybe just give us the awesome job, by the way, Brett. Could you maybe give us like the high-level 2-minute version of that, just as far as how that works, and maybe how that's a little bit different than things were done in 07, 08, and maybe why some of those changes have occurred between now and then to help mitigate risk when it comes to cities kind of getting in front of their skis when it comes to the special assessment financing?
Sure. This will be very high level.
2 minutes, Phil.
Oh, well. So the city does have policies in place on these special assessment projects now that require letters of credit that get released in certain percentages over time as lots are sold and homes are built. And so the plan is, it's kind of a good phrase, you don't get out over your skis. That if there is a development that's languishing and special assessments come due, maybe it's not built out, but you issue the permanent bonds and you don't have control over that sometimes. You can't go more than 4 years for temporary notes. Some federal tax restrictions really limit that more to like 3.5. So you're going to have to go to permanent bonds on those, and the hope is that all of those lots have been built, sold by the time you go to permanent bonds, and you have 100 different property owners for 100 different lots instead of having one developer owning all of the lots, nothing built, and a big special assessment bill coming due. And so if that happened, that latter doomsday scenario, if there's a letter of credit there that the city can hit to cover, non-payment of special assessments. It's not 100% letter of credit. It's not always going to protect the city, again, completely. That if you started requiring some of those things, I think developers would say, well, we'll just put in the infrastructure ourselves, or we're going to have to tie up, this 100% letter of credit. But again, the idea is you are protected to a certain extent for a period of time, not 100%. What we've seen in the past, the way this plays out, and you may have observed this as well, is those letters of credit sort of get rolled. The developer has that money tied up with a letter of credit. They want to get a phase built out, get that letter of credit reduced, so that gives them the financial flexibility to do the next phase. So it's an incentive on them, again, to have success with a certain phase so they can move to the next phase. When one phase is complete, you all can feel comfortable that you're pretty secure. There are special assessments, and maybe, it's a total of $40,000 or something payable over 20 years, but it might be a $400,000 home. And so you can feel good about, well, what's the value of that asset, and they have to pay, $40,000 over 20 years. So that's how it typically works. Anything else I missed, or you want me to touch on?
I don't think so. Some of the conversations we have, I think we get, and I'm not invalidating them whatsoever because there is risk, but we do a lot to mitigate that. And along with the letters of credit, there's this thought of incrementalism. We're doing these projects in multiple phases, and so your liability is really for the current phase, and you have a percentage letter of credit that protects you. And we're not moving on to more phases or issuing, more debt, so to speak, without the prior phase being done. And then there's another letter of credit that goes with the next phase, so on and so forth. So.
The other thing I'll add is special assessments that are not paid become a tax lien. And this is
a very overarching consideration, but you have both the letter of credit that would protect you, but then if you have a home that's built, or if you have a developer who's mortgaged property to do the development, and Mary, you may appreciate this, a bank that has the mortgage is probably not going to let properties go for special assessments. Those are relatively small amounts. And so it may take some time. The bank may slow pay it a little bit and let the entire, tax delinquency thing play out, but probably will redeem or sell and redeem at some point. And so I wouldn't rely on that completely, but I always think that's just a little bit extra. You've got a letter of credit, you probably have mortgages on the property that your tax lien can become superior to, and that's going to be a real motivation to the mortgage holder to make sure the specials are always paid so they don't lose a property they have a mortgage on over, the $2,000 annual non-payment of specials. So again, don't ever rely on that when you're sort of planning and considering a development, but it's just a little extra that you can feel better about.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I was involved in a small community that had a development go under, and unfortunately, the letter of credit has a term, an annual term that had to be renewed, and unfortunately, they didn't realize it needed to be renewed. It did not get renewed, so they did not have the 35% letter of credit to draw against. Is that something they automatically renew? Does the city need to stay on top of that to make sure they get renewed, or the bank does that automatically?
It's the way it should play out. I think the way it plays out for the city is, as the beneficiary of the letter of credit, if it's going to expire, you get a notice of it. I think it's in the development agreement, so if you get that notice, you can draw on it. It will not, before it expires, the bank would let you draw on that letter of credit.
They are annually required to be renewed?
It depends on the letter of credit. In that situation, I'm assuming the development agreement and maybe the letter of credit was written in a way that either the city didn't get notice, they didn't have to get notice. I'm a little skeptical of that. I'm wondering if the city got notice and somebody just didn't know how to process it. What am I supposed to do with it? And it is a pretty draconian step, I guess. This thing isn't going to renew, and maybe it's $300,000, and the city's going to go down to the bank and draw on it. That's how it should play out for the city to protect itself. But if that's not going to be renewed, you need to have access to those dollars to keep the security that you find.
Kevin, can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
Sarah and I, Sarah, can you please stand up in the background? That's Sarah. That's the city clerk. So we checked the letters of credit, because Harlan did ask us that question. We're like, that's a good question. So we went and looked at the letters of credit. They auto-renew unless we get notified 60 to 90 days before the expiration date. They auto-renew. So we don't get like a letter like, please renew, checkbox here. They auto-renew. So they're automatically renewing the letters of credit unless we get notified, saying, hey, we're not going to auto-renew this letter of credit. And so if we get noticed, then
you can draw.
We will draw on them. But just to let you know, these are automatically renewing. We're not like missing letters in the post office somewhere. They're auto-renewing. So we have those letters of credit on standby.
Anything else? Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Great information.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, speaking of debt to market value, here's a new development. So this is I-5 Willows Ridge final plat. K.E. Miller Engineering has submitted a final plat on behalf of the developer Hunter Larkin, developed land located on the southeast corner of Maple and 183rd. The developer is planning to build around 33 single-family housing units. The zoning was approved by the Planning Commission on April 8th of 2024. City Council approved the zoning on April 15th of 2024. So this kind of ties back to what Craig was saying about incrementalism and growth over time. You can approve a zoning a year ago And now you're seeing the plat. So I think these things can take a long time to actually get built out, where you actually see building permits being issued. But Planning Commission, as I said, approved it. Final plat recently on March 10th of 2025. And all final plats need to go before City Council for final approval. And so that's what you're looking at today. City Council is considering approving a final plat for the Littles Ridge development. Number of lots are 33. Zoning is R4. Land use is single family. Gross acres are around 8. Gross square footage is around 344,000. It's about 4.12 units per acre. So this came in blurry, so I apologize. But 183rd is here. Maple's over here. So you got it this way, going in and out to cul-de-sacs. 33 lots. This is on the southeast corner of 183rd Maple. Our beautiful north part, which will be built out in the future, is going to be right over here. Spring Hill developments around this area. And the developer, Jesse Schellenberg, who spoke earlier, his development is just to the north up here. There you go. Financially non-legally approved of form. It is recommended that the council approve the final plat for the Rose Ridge development, and I'm here to answer questions.
Any questions?
Single family homes.
Single family home.
I make a motion that we approve the final plat.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Item number 6.
Good evening once again. One of the hallmarks of an efficient and effective organization, whether that be the public or private sector, is looking at the organizational structure itself, its leadership and management. And this is what this RFP does. What this does is this looks at the city hiring an independent HR firm to look at the organization of the city of Goddard. So this is something that has not been done, but something as we, especially recently, have had staff turnover, the creation of new positions, and as we are a growing community in of itself, looking at how we're better serving our residents in terms of our organizational structure. And so what this does is the RFP will be, again, to hire an HR firm, but specifically they will be looking at, and this is included in the RFP, but looking at the organizational chart of the city of Goddard, looking at the onboarding process, creating new job descriptions and updating those job descriptions for all of our current employees. And then finally looking at the performance evaluation system and making sure that we're maintaining a highly qualified staff, and where there are gaps, that those gaps are identified so that we can improve our organization as a whole. The proposed timeline for this is that upon approval of council tonight, we'll start advertising this RFP tomorrow. Solicit proposals, and then those proposals will be opened, the sealed proposals that will be opened by city staff, along with the review, and then finalists presented to City Council during the May 5th City Council meeting, after which those have been reviewed. Council would select one of those HR firms, will enter into a contract, and then engage in the process. So again, this would be paid for out of the city's general fund discretionary capital outlay, that line item. Legal consideration is approved to form. Of course, the contract would be renewed by legal counsel prior to it being signed by the city and the selected firm. And again, the recommendation tonight is to approve the RFP, which is attached to the staff report, and allow city staff to collect proposals, again, with those proposals being submitted during, or reviewed, during the May 5th City Council meeting for approval of a firm to assist us through this process. Stand for any questions you may have.
Silence. Any questions?
No, I mean, the way I see it, that I appreciate the city staff's willingness to kind of put themselves in check and make sure they're doing their jobs the best they can be. So,
yes.
Great opportunity for city staff to not only see where they're at, but better themselves in any area they need to. So thank you guys for your willingness.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
Make a motion to approve the RFP and allow city staff to collect proposals from firms.
I second.
Keaton makes a motion, Kristen seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir. Item J, City Administrator report.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, it's my pleasure to bring you the City Administrator's report this evening. I'm going to try to keep it to the highlights as we are coming up close to the 2-hour rule. Please take a second look at the April council meeting schedule because of ad hoc water committee, court, the Monday after Easter. We had to move some things around a bit, so make sure you got things on your schedule. Mural project grant's been submitted. We are waiting, hopefully have an answer on whether or not we will receive an award sometime this month or the next. Wayfinding signs are completed. Ryan is doing all he can to churn through the red tape on the monument signs. I feel like we're getting closer. Speed limit and traffic engineering investigation, waiting on the partner agency to the east to give us a green light as far as whether we can put those signs up. Linear Park Playground Edition. The top coat of the Portland Place surfacing was placed today. We should have the orange fence down Thursday morning, and there's a ribbon cutting scheduled tentatively on Sunday, so we will make sure that you guys get the invite to that once it's been refined. 183rd Turn Lanes project is ahead of schedule. I think we're only a few short weeks out for the north side to be open. The contractor's been doing a good job. Ad hoc Water Committee, next meeting, April 15th at 7 p.m. The Goddard Pool / Means Park Drainage Project is underway. The rain kind of had them stumbling out of the starting blocks a bit, but they're already doing good. It sounds like they've got some curb and gutter formed up, and we're going to get that thing done before the pool season. It's all hands on deck. North Park, request for architectural engineering costs and qualifications. So we've got some benchmarks coming up for that. But the end goal is to be turning the ground over by the first of fall this year on that project. We're going to get the North Park ad hoc committee together in the next couple of weeks after these firms submit their proposals. So we're trying to get to full construction document design and so we can get this thing into its final form, get a budget established, and start building that park that's been many, many years in the waiting. So 2025 street projects, we did postpone the bid opening to later in the week, so likely at the next council meeting, 22nd or 29th, you guys will have a contract bid award in front of you, so be on the lookout for that. Salt storage facility, the site pad and roadway is complete. The building will be delivered in the coming days. Neighbors United / Community Cleanup Day, April 26th, 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. I'm not going to steal the Vice Mayor's thunder, so I'm skipping over this one. And then if you look, we've got a slate of upcoming agenda items. It's always busy in the bustling city of Goddard. So thank you guys for your support. With that, I'd be glad to stand for any questions from the Honorable Mayor and City Council.
Questions?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Moving along to K. Anybody comments?
Am I starting?
I'll let you start. I was going to say, but I'll look at you and ask you.
I'd like to welcome Danny again to the team. We're excited to have you here and looking forward to all that you're able to do to help our community grow stronger. Great job on the staff for putting together this CIP. Brooks specifically, thanks for the color coordination, and it's easier to read for me personally. I appreciate the Schellenberg, Jesse, for clarifying some things on the 55 plus, and for Amanda with the information provided. Clearly it's a need in our community. And thank you, Kevin and Brett for the enlightening information on our debt service.
Batter up.
First and foremost, wanted to apologize for absence in these last few months. Haven't been able to be as involved as I wanted to be, but I joined the mayor as a retired man as of today. Kind of a stay-at-home dad now. It's gonna be awesome. But got to start my day with Danny and this team. So welcome. super excited to get to have you here and see what you can do for our community. That being said, we got to meet about the Main Street Market and it's Market Week, and we're finally back. I'm so excited. It's going to be awesome. So this Sunday, 2 to 5, got to be out there. We've got like 30-something vendors at this point, and our Facebook page was lighting up this afternoon. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Facebook page was lighting up. So we've got a few more coming, and it sounds like we've got inflatables coming. We've got musicians. We've got food trucks. It's all coming back. So yeah, shutting down Main Street, and then at the same time, like Craig was saying, that inclusive playground is going to be open this weekend. So we're going to do a ribbon cutting. It's going to be awesome. I've been talking to some of my friends in the special education world, and we're gonna pack that park, man. It's gonna be awesome. So yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you for everything you guys put together. This was one of those meetings where everything was just kind of long. You know what I mean? Like it's stuff we have to do, but for some reason they all line up to be the same meeting every time. So we gotta do something about that. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, thank you guys for your work. I appreciate you.
Man, since you're retired today, you really got to lay off the booze. Hey, the car show was great. Yeah, it was a good car show. And that also on Sunday, yeah.
Did you get the drone to take those pictures, or did you just did something magical?
We've got video coming out.
We got Chris Sizemore back there in the house, right?
Yes.
It's like been a long time. Yeah, so anyway, that's all I have.
It's a good meeting. A lot of time and effort's gone into that CIP project. We've got a lot of time and effort, but at least we're moving off solid data, and I think we've invested the time and the money to get to this point. So hopefully it'll lead to good results as we continue to move forward. Appreciate, Ryan, your communication and working on the code. That's always a lot of fun, I'm sure. But it's necessary and it'll make things better for everyone. So with that, we will move on to item L. I think there's an L. Is there an L?
Yes.
Comes right after K.
Make a motion to move to enter executive session for consultation with the city attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship per KSA 75-4319B2 to receive advice regarding the matter, including the city administrator and city attorney, with the regular meeting reopening at 9:10.
Could you say action to follow too?
With action to follow.
Yes, yes.
Free then close. Got it. We get 3 minutes.
All right, we will return.
Who's second?
Second. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay,